When I was making candles myself, I used to use Nature's Garden. So, with Nature's Garden, it is a website that has products specifically designed for candle making and soap making products. So, I use this website because I know that the products they have already been tested, tried, and would be successful with a candle business. So, basically, your supply list, I'm going to go over some of the supplies that you're going to need, and then we're going to kind of walk through the actual website. But starting off with your candle business, you're going to make sure you got to make sure that you're researching the type of wax that you want. The wax is going to be the most important. So, researching if you're wanting to use a paraffin wax or a soy wax or beeswax or something like that, know the type of wax that you're wanting to use. Even a coconut wax. A lot of people use coconut wax and sometimes soy wax because it's more eco friendly. However, from what I've heard, a lot of paraffin waxes do hold the scent a little longer, makes it a little stronger. So some people do use the paraffin, but the soy and the coconut, the more eco-friendly ones are the more favorited ones. So just make sure that you know what it is that you want to use for your business. Also, you got to figure out outside of that, who are you selling this to? So who is your audience? So, are you going to be selling it to someone or like a group of people that are a more young adult? Or are you going to be selling it to kind of more mature audiences? So, those are things that you want to know as well because some sense certain age groups may not like or something like that. Even when it gets down to your coloring of your candles, a lot of people keep the wax the color, the original color. Some people want to spice it up a little bit and make it more interesting. They use all kind of dyes and things like that to bring whatever it is their vision for that candle to life. So you want to make sure that whatever it is that you're using, that it works for that audience, because you don't want to have like your audience be targeted towards an older audience and then you're using like neon pinks and greens and things like that that may be more suitable for a younger audience. However, the next thing that you would need to do for your supplies is make sure that you have wicks. So wicks is what you're going to put into the candle and apply flame or flame to it so that it can actually burn the actual candle. So you need to make sure whatever container that you're using, and we'll get to that a little bit later in the video, but whatever container that you're using, make sure that you have the appropriate wick size for that container. And most of the time with most vendors, wherever you're going to get your containers from for whatever is going to hold your wax in it, normally it gives you the suggested wick size for that container because it's typically based on the diameter of that particular container. So if it's like a 3.5-inch diameter for that container, it's like a specific type of wick that wicks that may be needed for that candle in order for it to burn the entire candle and not just kind of have a puddle in the middle. You want it to have an even burn across the entire candle. The next thing is making sure that you're going to have a nice fragrance. So what type of fragrances are you going to be using? So there are different types. You have your fruity scents, you have your masculine scents, you have your um, floral scents. It's just different type of scents. Figure out exactly what it is that you want to be able to kind of offer your audience. Just because some people like rose scents, but then some people like, I don't really like the floral. I do like the peach or the apple or the strawberry scents or something like that. Or what if you have like a masculine audience? They may want something that like a tobacco scent or something, more masculine, like a cedar wood or something like that. So just figure out what type of fragrances that you're wanting to use. The next thing would be making sure that you have the specific equipment to run your business. So you're going to need something to actually warm up the wax so that you can pour it into the containers. And that would be some kind of heating source. So a lot of people use a double boiler method. And then you have some people who actually have like wax melters. There are like different equipment or products and things like that that are specifically towards wax melting. I think they had one a while ago. It was like a Presto pot or something like that that someone had. It looked like a crock pot that someone had turned into something that you can actually use for melting your wax. That had like a spout on the front so that the melted wax come out a little bit smoother than you having to use like a open crock pot and having to stick like a deep spoon or something in there to kind of scoop out your melted wax. So there are different type of methods, so you want to research to see which one that you want to use. But the double boiler method I think is a really great method to use, especially when you're first starting out. Making sure that you have your dyes. So if you're going to be making, say you're going to be making Christmas themed candles, making sure you have the right reds and the right greens, and testing these things out to make sure that they're that everything flows well in the candle. I've heard in some situations, depending on the type of dye that you're using, sometimes it can mess with the actual fragrance. So this is where the testing part again comes out. You just want to make sure that what you're experiencing what the end user is going to experience. So if you have to switch up that green, get another green, or get a green or a red or something from another supplier that's going to mesh well with the type of wax and the fragrance that you're using, this is where that testing will help out with that. Making sure you have a thermometer. The kits that I'm going to show you here on Nature's Garden, they're going to give you all of the instructions to create the size. Let's go to the waxes. So with these waxes, they offer different types. As you can see, they have a joy wax, pillar of bliss wax, they have a soy wax. Now some of these waxes like the pillar of bliss and joy wax, I think the joy wax is kind of like a proprietary blend, meaning that only Nature's Garden sells it. But when you click on these specific waxes, it gives you an idea of the type of wax that it is. And then also it tells you at the very bottom the type of wax that you can use that for. So this would not be for a container wax. This would be more so for the tarts and the votives and the pillar waxes. So if you look at these down here, this will give you a better example of when to use that particular wax. However, if you go to something like the Joy Wax, you scroll to the bottom of that one and it tells you that you can use that for a container wax. It tells you that you can use that for a container wax. And then it's a lot of information on here. I had just clicked on, I think it was the SDS screen to give you more information about the wax itself if you open that up. But this particular one, like right here, it shows you the different type of container candles that you can use that wax for. So making sure that you know exactly what type of wax that you're going to be using. So we're going to go back to the supplies. And if you scroll down, these are the different type of wax, not the different type of waxes, but these are different types of wicks. So again, like I stated earlier, the type of wicks depends on the diameter of the container. So let's click on that. So as you can see, this is a CD12 candle wick, right? So if you scroll down, it tells you right here that this is for containers, and it gives you a recipe for a container candle where you're able to use that specific wick based on the container. So you want to just make sure that you're paying attention to that so that you do have the right size wick for whatever container that you're using, because when you apply that flame to that wick, you want to make sure that it has an even burn pull around the entire candle and not just like in the center or get halfway around it. You want to make sure that it's reaching the edges of the entire container when it's burning. And that's the wicks. And then you want to go down to the colors that you're going to use. So these are candle dye blocks. So of course you're not going to put in the entire block unless you're making like a huge batch of candles. You can really chip off some of these dye blocks and just stir it around into the melted wax until you get the desired color that you're going for. And then at the bottom again, here is another recipe where they've used that color block to kind of give you an idea of how this may look. Now, this right here is the brown, but as you can see, this is a light color brown. But maybe if you're going for a darker color, you would use a little bit more of that dye block than you would normally use because you want a darker brown. The next thing we're going to discuss is this is the pouring pot. So again, when you're using your heat source, like I said, you can use the double boiler method or something specifically designed for melting your wax. But once you have melted that wax, like I said, for that particular item I was speaking about earlier that looked like a crock pot and had the spout on the front, when you turn that spout and the wax comes out, you will use the pouring pot to catch that wax so that you're able to pour that wax into the containers or the clamshells or whatever that you're going to be using. So these definitely come in handy. And I used to have multiple ones just because I wanted to have different ones going for different things. So I may have a pot that had the blue, a pot that had the red. The red may be a strawberry scent, the blue may be a blueberry scent, but I had them separated for things like that. And then again, if you're making the clamshells, so if you're using the clamshells, you don't have to use the wick, right? Because once these have hardened, the only thing that you're doing is kind of pulling it apart, picking one off, and putting it on to whatever heat source or candle burner or whatever that you're going to use for your clamshells. So it gives you information about how much it can hold. Like it tells you it holds 3.5 ounces of wax. There are other recipes and things like that that you can actually use for your wax melt if you're just starting out. As you can see, these are some Christmas themed wax melt kits over here. And scrolling down a little bit more, these are kind of the wick stickers. So you would apply these stickers to the bottom of the wicks and push it into the container for it to hold. This right here is the wick bar. So once you have put that wick into, as you can see that first picture right there, once you have put that wick into that container, you're going to use the wick bar to actually keep that wick in place so it's not shifting left and right, that it stays centered. So that is what that wick bar is for. And these are wooden wicks. So a lot of people love to use the wooden wicks in their containers just because they like the way that when they're burning the wooden wick, it has a crackling sound, a crackling effect to it. So a lot of people use that in their candles because they like that particular effect of it. And I'm just kind of going down to see, and these are containers. So also when you're figuring out the type of containers that you want to use, there are a ton of different types of containers that you can use for your candle business. Do you want to use metal? Do you want to use glass? Like, it's so many different containers that you can use. I would say before you really get into buying large quantities of anything, start off small. You want to test the smallest level first to even see if candle making is something that you even want to do. And I would rather mess up $20, $30, $40 than $200, $300, $400. So you want to start off small, test it out. If your tried and true methods have worked and you like it, then you can scale up and buy larger quantities. I know that people tell you all the time to buy in bulk, but it doesn't make sense to buy in bulk if you're not sure if this is what you really want to do and you haven't tested it to make sure that it's even something that you like. And this, right, that's just a example of a metal tin that you can use. A lot of this, like even with the metal tins, I have seen those on like Amazon as well. But again, there are so many different candle companies where you can get exotic looking um, containers. Some of, the better it looks, the prettier that it is, the more decorative that it is, the higher it's going to be. So you have to figure out if that's something that you want to purchase within your company, because you, again, when you're starting off small, these are added costs that you want to figure out in the beginning. If you have more money to purchase things like that, I would definitely say go ahead after you've, done your testing, all that. But if you're starting out with a small amount of money, do not spend your money on those expensive things just yet. Make sure that you've done everything that you needed to do prior to that. And again, this is a tumbler jar here. So these are different types of containers that you can actually use. And these are a lot of the different dyes, wicks, all those things. Like I say, it's a lot of information for you to research and figure out. But and you have to do that when you're starting a business. You have to figure out what it is that you want, what you don't want, figure out who you're selling it to, make sure it's something that they want or don't want, because you don't want to sell something that nobody wants to buy. But looking at the kits here, because I don't want to make the video too long because I could talk about this stuff all day. There are different types of kits that Nature Garden offer. So if you're just starting out with the candle business, try one of these candle kits first. The candle kits themselves have all the supplies and everything that you're going to need to just start your testing process. So as you can see, this one candle kit is $39.99. It gives you the specifics. So this kit it makes 11 candles. It tells you the amount of time it takes to make it, and it tells you the difficulty is easy. The instructions are included. On the left side, it tells you everything that is included with this particular kit. It gives you and it tells you everything else that you're going to need as far as your pouring pot, a large pot. It tells you everything that you're going to need here. And again, a lot of this stuff, you do not have to purchase it from Nature's Garden. You can take these other items and research it maybe on Walmart or even at Dollar Tree, something like that. You can get it cheaper somewhere else, but I would say the big stuff like your wax and your wicks and your fragrance oils and things like that, make sure that you're getting it from a reliable source. But again, here are the directions telling you everything that you're going to need to get that finished product of that picture right there. It should come out looking just like that. And again, when I was talking about the supplies that you're going to need, this is when that comes in handy, because again, you're going to need a heat source to melt your wax. You're going to need something to stir it with. You're going to need something to pour the wax into the actual container. You're going to need the dye, and if you want to have a specific color or use the dye that's coming with it, you want to make sure that you have a thermometer. The thermometer part is very important as well, because these instructions have specific temperature times that you want to pay attention to, because if not, you can throw the whole recipe off and it will not come out looking the way that you thought it would. It would probably mess the entire thing up. And even if you're applying like fragrances and things like that, when it didn't tell you to apply it at the right temperature and stuff like that, once the product is finished, you may not even smell the fragrance because you didn't apply it when it said to apply it at the right temperature. So those are things that you definitely want to check and test in the testing process. So really, I would say just take your time and look at this page. If you're starting out with candles and say you've mastered the candles and you want to start adding different products onto your business, go back here and look at the kits and start testing out some of the kits. They have body butter kits, they have lip balm kits, they have shea butter lotion kits. Look at all the different kits that you can try out to see if it's something that you want to add to your product line. It's just a plethora of things that you can try. The massage oil is a big one that a lot of people buy as well. Put some dried herbs, some dried roses or flowers or something in there to make it look pretty. It's very marketable. I see a lot of people do it. Um, just making sure that it's actually dried herbs and flowers and stuff that you're using, because you don't want to put that in the oil and then it turns brown or turns another color and it looks disgusting in there. So just make sure that you're using the right products. But again, this is just something I wanted to kind of go over, because as you can see, starting out, just use that kit, because again, I would rather lose $39, $49 versus $390, $490. And that is something that you can start for under $100. Some of these make 6 candles, some of them make 11 candles. Again, this gives you an opportunity to test out and see if it's something that you want to do. Once again, like I said, once you have mastered this, then I would say go ahead and buy in bulk of what you've already used. Buy in bulk of um, the products that you need. And the biggest thing that you want to make sure that you have is the fragrance oil. So, what type of fragrances do you want to use? I like Nature's Garden because I know majority of all their fragrance is going to tell you if it's specifically for candles, if it's for soap. It's going to let you know the type of product that you're able to apply that fragrance in. So let's go here. So this tells you right here, candle fragrance oils. So these are oils that have already been tested within candles that are compatible. So I would definitely say look at these, read the reviews, look at the notes. Even with the monkey fart, some of the titles will kind of throw you off, but if you open it up and read it, it gives you the notes of what it should smell like. Now, again, in the bottle versus out of the bottle sometimes is different scents. That's why you have to play around with it. I would say start off with a 1 ounce size versus something that's truly that, larger, because it may be something that you don't like. You'll also find that with monkey farts, you're going to see that title with different vendors. Every vendor that has that title, that scent may smell different. So you may want to try 2 or 3 different vendors with the same fragrance just to see which one that you prefer. I know for a while it was hard for me to find a really good strawberry scent. It was hard for me to find a strong peach scent. So I had to test out multiple companies to figure out which one I wanted to use. So I would definitely say um, play around with that as well. And what I also like about Nature's Garden is that within most of all their videos, if they don't have like a recipe that you can use, instructions that you can use, they have some kind of video that you can follow along. This video is entitled Soap Testing for Monkey Farts Fragrance Oil. Even though you're not using it for soap at the moment, it still gives you an idea, especially if this is something that you want to add to your product line. Maybe in the future, you want a monkey farts candle, you want a monkey farts soap, monkey farts like a rolling ball, like a massage oil or something like that, that you can offer as like a package or something like that within your product line, especially during like the holiday season. You want to gift it up, make it real cute. And it tells you right here, if you use it in your candles, whether you're using it in soy wax, joy wax, the pillar of bliss wax, where you would use like wax melt or something like that, it's saying that the scent is strong. The finished product has a strong scent. It does tell you if you're using this in like a cold processed soap that the scent retention is strong, and it gives you an idea of if it's going to separate, if it's going to accelerate. Accelerate meaning it's going to get hard really fast. A lot of people, when you're making soap and you get into that soap world, you're using that blender to blend everything up together, and you're noticing that it's getting harder and harder. The finished product of that soap may not come out the way that you wanted it to, because that fragrance all sped up the process time for that soap. So that's something that you want to pay attention to as well. And again, it gives you a lot of information if you want to find out more about IFRA data, SDS, all of that. You can click on those. It'll open up to a whole nother link. You can read more about that. And again, it tells you the percentages for how you should be using that fragrance oil. So if you're coming up with a recipe for your wax, just know that the maximum use for this particular fragrance oil is at 10%. Same thing with your lotion, your soap. Make sure that you're looking at the maximum use levels for it. And again, that is Nature's Garden. That is, how you're able to kind of start a